Welcome back to Wonders of Our Planet. Today, we're talking about the American bison. What do we know about it? A massive animal, the symbol of the Great Plains. That shaggy head stamped on the old nickel and printed on college emblems all across the country. Just 150 years ago, there were 60 million of them. They covered the prairie from horizon to horizon, and the ground shook under their hooves. And then, in the span of 20 years, they were wiped out almost to the last animal, not by disease, not by drought, but by men with rifles and an order from the government. By 1889, fewer than 1,000 were left. But the story didn't end there. Today, the bison is the national mammal of the United States. How did one species survive the greatest slaughter of animals in the history of the New World and come back? Right here, right now, let's get into it. The American bison is not a buffalo, even though that's what nearly everyone calls it. True buffalo are Asian and African species, with no connection to the American prairie at all. The bison is its own genus, and its closest relative is the European wisent, which was hunted almost to extinction during the two world wars and survives today only because it was bred back in the forests of Poland. The American bison comes into subspecies, the plains bison, the one you know from Yellowstone postcards, and the wood bison, larger and darker, living in the forests of Canada. Before Europeans arrived, its range covered the whole continent, from Alaska to Florida, from the Appalachians to the Rockies. It was the largest herd animal in the New World, and one of the most numerous large mammals that has ever lived on Earth. Today, bison are sorted not just by subspecies, but by the status of the herd. The Yellowstone bison are the only population that has lived continuously on American soil since prehistoric times, with no animals ever brought in from outside. There are about 5,000 of them, and they're the only herd you can call truly wild in the genetic sense, with no cattle DNA mixed in. Most of the other herds, around 30,000 in the wild, 500,000 on private ranches, carry the marks of crossbreeding with cattle, which happened in the late 1800s, when the first conservationists were desperate to save any animals at all. But wild or ranched, they're all one species, one story of survival. The bison is a marvel of engineering built for brutal conditions. A full-grown bull weighs up to 2,000 pounds, about a ton, and stands 6 feet tall at the shoulder. That hump on its back isn't fat, it's a muscular lever, powerful muscles anchored to extended vertebrae that let it swing its massive head like a plow and shovel through snow 5 feet deep to reach the grass underneath. The front of its body is wrapped in dense, shaggy fur that sheds water and holds in heat at 50 degrees below zero. Despite all that mass, a bison can hit 35 miles an hour and turn on a dime, fast enough to surprise even experienced riders. And those dusty craters you see them rolling in, called wallows, aren't for fun. They're protection against insects and a way to shed that heavy winter coat. For hundreds of thousands of years, all of this worked without a hitch. The trouble came from the west, riding east, on the railroad. In the year 1800, somewhere between 30 and 60 million bison roamed the Great Plains. By 1889, there were fewer than 1,000. It's one of the fastest exterminations of a large animal in human history, and it was deliberate. When the Transcontinental Railroad cut across the prairie in the 1860s, hunters suddenly had direct access to the herds. Hides sold for good money, and bison tongue was considered a delicacy. William Cody, the man history remembers as Buffalo Bill, personally killed more than 4,000 animals in 18 months. The U.S. Army openly encouraged the slaughter. General Sheridan, commander of the Western Military Division, said it plainly, "Kill the bison, and you destroy the economy of the Plains tribes." For the Lakota, the Comanche, and the Kiowa, the bison was everything: food, clothing, tools, religion. Without the bison, the nomadic life of the prairie became impossible. This was a conscious strategy: destroy the food supply, and you destroy the people. By 1883, the great herds of the plains were almost entirely gone. And then came a taxidermist, William Hornaday, who worked for the Smithsonian, traveled to Montana in 1886 to collect bison for a museum display. In 5 weeks of searching, he found just 25 animals. Horrified, he wrote a report to Congress, and in 1905, together with Theodore Roosevelt, he founded the American Bison Society. A handful of animals from zoos and private ranches were sent to wildlife reserves. And Yellowstone, where a few hundred bison had miraculously survived the hunters in remote mountain valleys, became the genetic bank of the entire species. Today, the bison is the national mammal of the United States, Made official by law in 2016 under Barack Obama, the first and only animal ever given that title. The Yellowstone herd numbers around 5,000 head, the only bison on Earth with an unbroken wild history and no human meddling in their bloodline. The Intertribal Buffalo Council, an alliance of about 80 native nations, manages herds totaling 20,000 animals. For many of these peoples, the return of the bison isn't just ecology, it's the restoration of cultural sovereignty. Bison meat is higher in protein and lower in fat than beef, and today you'll find it in just about every Whole Foods. The main threat now isn't hunters, it's the cattle lobby. Ranchers worrying about competition for grazing land and the spread of a disease called brucellosis. Each year, several hundred Yellowstone bison are shot when the herds wander past the boundaries of the park. The bison teaches us an uncomfortable truth. The largest catastrophes don't come from the greed of a few individuals, they come from systematic policy, the kind that has a name, an author, and a date. 60 million animals didn't vanish because that's just how it went. They vanished because someone decided they should. And in the same way, their return didn't happen on its own, it happened because one taxidermist wrote a report, one president signed an order, and 80 tribes refused to forget. The story of the bison is proof that collapse can be reversed, but only if someone is watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button and subscribe, that's what keeps these videos coming. Thanks for watching Wonders of Our Planet.